Okay, so the MVP basically is your most basic product, the first product that you build. It's usually the first product that you build. May not be for startups also, even for enterprises, like we want to look at building the MVP, basically the first product, the most minimum viable product, basically bare bones foundation solution product. So what happens here, what usually happens here is that you want to build, you want to maximize the resources, right, for maximum output. Right, that's why we look at the MVP. Okay, so I'll be talking a little bit of the UX UI portion of the software product. And after that, also touch on some of the best practices when it comes to building the MVP. Any questions, feel free to raise your hands at any time. If you have anything you want to discuss or anything, feel free. Okay, so one of the most commonly found, okay, this also happens in hackathons. You go to hackathon, you build a product, they always start with the sign-in, sign-up page. However, for a majority of products, probably 98% of the products, the sign-in, sign-up page is not the focus of your product. Correct? Whatever product it is, usually, and there are situations, yes, if you are building authentication application, okay, maybe the sign-in, sign-up is the one. But for most cases, it is not actually, and we couldn't care less about the sign-in, sign-up when you start out, right? Focus on what is the focus of your product. What is the technology of the product that you want to build? What is it? That is what we want to focus on. The sign-in, sign-up can come up later, Usually it can come later. Okay, so when you build your MVP, the focus is very important. The vision of your product, that is most important. If you can present your software, what is the focus of the software? You can present that, present what is the core product of the software, core technology, what is it trying to do? That is most important, and that's what you need to focus. And that's where you want to start. Okay, all right. So next, we want to talk about consistency. Another common mistake happens when there is actually no consistency in the app. For example, like this. See, there's very little consistency. You don't even know that it's actually the same app, right? When you build an app, one of the things you want to have is consistency. You want to have the across the board that say that, okay, you are still in this app, right? You haven't left this app for another app. You're still within that app. So you want to have certain consistency. There's a lot of ways that you can create consistency across your app. One of the most common ways, of course, is the color theme. Right? Have a standard color theme throughout your pages, your screens. Another way is, of course, have the same icon styling. Where is not the same? If you look at the home button and the favorite button, this is what we call by inconsistent icon styling. Why is it inconsistent? Anybody know the answer? What's the difference between these two icons? Exactly, one is actually line, the other is actually solid, right? Right there is not consistent. You want to have same, if it's all outlined, all your icons, try to make it outlined, all lined, right? Or if it's solid, these are solid icons, that's a line icon, right there is inconsistent, right? So all these have meanings. How you actually put all the different icons actually have meanings to the user. Later we will see. Okay, same thing, mascot, basically this will be considered a mascot, right? So if you have that mascot, if you have the same mascot throughout your screens, that's also a way of creating consistency. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways we can explore. Basically, open up any app in your application. When you use apps on your phone, right, mobile phone, take notice of these things. What does all these all these apps have in common? What are they doing right? Okay, so for example, what app is this? Lazada, right? So we can see where is the consistency, right? Every single page has a certain consistency to the pages. Look at the icons right here, right? Solid icons in blue color tells you which page you are. All the solid icons basically tells you which page you are. Everything else all line icons. These are consistencies, right? It all has a general, similar sort of styling, right? All the icons have a similar style to it, right? This is what we call consistency. Same font. And if it's bold, same bolding of the pages, right? When you use apps, notice these things. These are the things we call, we want to mimic when we build our product. Okay, same thing with fonts, right? This is one of the very common mistakes that I tend to see. We see any new developer that join my team, when they build the product, when they are tasked to create a wireframe or whatever, especially for younger, fresh developers who started out coding with HTML. So they have no idea how to do styling. They have no idea what is styling, right? So they just put everything on, they just learn, they put everything on screen. And then what happens is they have very interesting issues when it comes to the application. It turns out something like that. What's wrong with this? Sorry, what's wrong with this? No margin? And, sorry, correct? Anything else? Exactly, no spacing. What else? No alignment, no variation, right? We human beings, we love spacing, right? Having spacing makes us comfortable. It feels that there is space, right? Everything tied up, bunched up together, we get tied up as well, right? And we actually do not like monotony. We hate monotony, like we wouldn't touch any monotonous things, right? Now we are in a world of fast pace, everything fast, fast, fast. We see something that is monotonous, we ignore. So you do not want people to be ignoring your app. So don't do mistakes like this, right? Okay, so same thing like this. This is a very actual example of how a new developer develop something. You just put the codes together and then put it up there, right? And all these are very obvious if they look and basically think about it. If they look at from an outsider's point of view and review their own app, they might be able to notice the problems. But it's usually the case with your own creation. You have a blind spot when it comes to your own codes, right? You don't see all the mistakes. You need somebody else to tell you, oh, actually you made certain mistakes. Who can point out all the problems? Somebody. We look at this. What could you improve? Anybody? Exactly, right? Between all the different text boxes, right there, have a little bit of spacing. Don't bunch them all up together. There is space across the screen. You don't need to bunch it all up on the top of the screen, right? Same thing with all the other buttons. Have spacing. It creates a little bit of a comfort zone for people looking at it, right? There's a lot of issues, and you see all the icons themselves don't have the necessary spacing as well. And they don't have the necessary association. This is all the way to the far left. This is all the way to the far right, right? Why is there so much spacing in between? There's a lack of association between these two, right? All these things. Yep. And what I would typically do in this situation, also vary the font size. Tell people what is the focus of this screen, where their eyes should go to first, right? It's very simple. All you need to do is have a little bit bigger font, bold it. When people see bolded fonts, their eyes immediately go there. See on this page, where is the bolded fonts? You go, oh, font matters, right? Straight away, you read that first before you read everything else. So it's a very automatic thing that we humans do. We look at bolded capital fonts first, right? This is the attention, where your attention should be. Straight away, our eyes go there. And then we read everything else, right? So make sure you arrange all these things on your screen in that manner. Basically, where is the important information? Create that focus. Okay. So next. Okay, so this is one of the things that is also very commonly found in new developers. Have this sense of always having a default. Try to have that. It's not a very common thinking, I guess, but train yourself to always think of what should I put as a default. I should have a default action. If you want to fill up a form, whatever, what is the most important information? Fill it up first, right? What is unnecessary? Do not put that up. If it's unnecessary, don't waste users' actions. We want to keep user action under 3 clicks per activity. Why do we do that? Because we get bored very easily. Right nowadays, you ask people to do a survey. Okay, click, open up the survey, answer the first question, answer the second question, and then okay, they go away already because they're bored already, right? They want to do something else. They have a lot of other things to do in their day. Right? So nowadays, if you notice, right, the best apps out there, they intuitively guess at what is it you want to do. They do the action before you even think about it, right? You open up Google Map, straight away it zooms up to where you are. It assumes first that you want the map of your immediate area before it gives you the option to search for somewhere else. That's what we call the default as well. Give people a default. Don't just open up Google Map and say, hey, why is the world map right in front of me? Instead of the world map having in front of you, the default is actually your immediate surroundings. That is also a default. So always think about what should be the default. What should be the default action? Guess and think about what your user want before they even think they want it. Have a default. Okay. Any questions about this, anybody? Any of these that you actually have any stories you want to share in your life? Okay. So similarly, anybody seen this? Where do you see this? Exactly. Nowadays, this is basically how they have evolved over time. That is so easy for you to give feedback. It's just one click, single click, that's it. They don't request anything else from you. If you want to spend more time to give further feedback, of course, there's an option, but they only require just one click. And it's basically based on the generosity of the person going to the toilet. If they feel happy, they will click. If they don't feel happy, they just go away. And then you get the best satisfaction score because you never get the unhappy score, right? Okay. So design. So make this a automatic thing to do. If when you do things like this, when you design for something, it becomes automatic after you know how to do it. Because design is actually iteration. So most of the especially the fresh new developers that come in, most of them, they are afraid of doing design because they don't know where to start. They think it's actually a big process. It's actually a big thing that they have to actually look at it. So try to think of design is actually an iteration. Don't think about, oh, I have to design from start to end. It's not that you don't think about all the possibilities, but think of it as an iteration. Basically, you start small and it will grow. It gets, you add things to it. It's something that to be added. It's not something that you have to start from 1 to 100 all the way and make sure that every single step is done. But just keep adding things as you think about it, as you think about all these ideas, how to create the app, all the ways that you can build it. And the thing about innovation is actually innovation only happens in a group. So try to do this not by yourself. It's very hard. Design is actually very, very hard. Innovation, creativity is very, very hard if you try to do it by one person, by yourself, right? Innovation comes with communicating with people, with interacting with people. You brainstorm. What is brainstorming? Brainstorming does not mean looking at a piece of paper and then, okay, I draw, that's it. No. Brainstorming is actually having a person to talk, to make a conversation. And then you brainstorm about something, right? That conversation, right, really generates ideas. So you try to do it in a group, iterate it. Try to come up with, okay, anything. Don't have a blank paper. Maybe for the first iteration, you do it for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or you say, okay, no more ideas. Go have a coffee first. Come back. Think of it. Second iteration. Same thing. Go for lunch first. Come back. Third iteration. Then, oh, suddenly it becomes better. Okay? Okay. So another thing I would like to point out is a lot of people actually don't understand what is the SDLC. So I want to spend a little bit of time to actually go through what is the software development lifecycle, why it's actually important. This has been around for decades, right, of programming, and it's still around, it's still relevant because it is important. If it's not important, we wouldn't even look at it anymore, right? Because it is still relevant. And we have the full cycle of SDLC in every single iteration of your agile practice. We want to have that. If you don't have the full iteration in your each agile iteration, means that you're missing something. You can make it better, right? It can be improved, right? So always have your planning first. Plan, define it. What is the defining for? The defining here is actually in terms of documentation. Why is documentation? Because it actually tells everybody what you are thinking. We are not mind readers. None of us on the planet are mind readers, and definitely no programmers are mind readers, for sure. Right? We can't read minds. So what do we need to do? We need to put down what we are thinking on paper. Right? It needs to be black and white for other people to understand what's in our mind. That's what we call defining. And also to tell yourself, tomorrow you might forget what you think about yesterday. How do you remind yourself tomorrow that, oh, I've done the work. I've already think about it. I've already come up with the design today. Put it on paper. Then tomorrow you say, oh, okay, I've done it. So now I can move on to another task. Right? Define it. And then once you define what is the problem, then you can do the design. Right? Then you build it. Design first before building. If you build without designing, usually what happens is that you build and then you come back, oh, I should be designing. Then you go back and do this step again. And then you do the building again. Right? It's repetitive stuff if you don't do the designing first. That's why we have the designing first before you build. And then always test. Okay. So once this is actually, once you get used to that habit, right, this becomes very automatic and you can just do it without even thinking. If you have to think about it, then it becomes tedious, but it becomes habit, right? It's very easy, you just do it. Okay, so when it comes to basic design, again, most developers, fresh developers especially, they don't know where to start. Why we look at all these things, why we look at all this, this is what I consider the very basic things to have for a design. We have these 6 items. 5 of it is actually UML design. Who has learned UML? Right? So most of you have. Those who have not, of course, read up about it. It's fairly simple to learn, but a lot of people who have been to UML classes, they don't actually understand why we focus on these particular UML diagrams, right? So let's have a quick look at it. The wireframe, it actually gives people a visual outlook of what is it you're trying to build, right? It tells people, okay, we have this pop-up. It should be like this. It should have what inside, right? This is how we tell people, okay, this is what we want to build. It gives people some sense of, okay, let's work together to build this thing, right? And then once you have what you want to build already, you come out with the system design. So it creates that boundary. What is it you're trying to build? Does it have a backend? What database is it using? How many system does it have? Does it have a single front end? All these things, right? How many modules, the main modules, core modules, of course, you're talking about. What's our modules? And the thing is that, again, this is an iteration. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong the first time, right? You can always add, always change. You can remove, throw it away, rebuild it. It's fine, totally fine. And then come up with the use case diagram. This is basically you putting yourself into the shoes of the user. You want to have that exercise to put yourself, give yourself 5 minutes to put yourself into the shoes of the user instead of on the side of the developer all the time, right? So tell yourself, if you are the user, if you're not the user, you have this particular application you need to use. What is most important to you? What do you want? What do you need? And then come up with the use case diagrams. Okay, from the use case diagrams, usually once you have the use case diagram, then you focus on where are the use cases you actually want to build. You may not build, this is a lot of use cases, you may not build all of it, right? For your MVP, you might only focus on, okay, maybe 2 features, 2 functions, right? And from these 2 functions, each function should have at least 1 sequence diagram. What is a sequence diagram? So sequence diagram is actually telling you what is the flow of the messages, the data across different systems. If it's within the application, if it's within the front end, there is no sequence diagram because there's only the front end talking to itself. It's not really a sequence of messages, right? So when we talk about sequence diagrams, you're talking about different sequence, across different sequence. You have the front end, you have the back end, you have the database, or whatever in between, right? So with each sequence diagram, then you identify where are the parts that you want to look at. When we talk about activity diagrams, we are talking about now within the system itself. We are no longer talking about between systems there, within the system here, right? So these are also some of the mistakes I noticed. You know, some fresh developers, they don't know how to build why we have the activity diagram. So they build an activity diagram where it crosses different systems. No, right? Don't do that. The activity diagram is only for within that system. Whether it's within the front end, you have to focus on a particular flow of the data or particular flow of a function. That's what the sequence diagram is for, right? And then, of course, we have the all-important ERD. ERD stands for Entity Relationship Diagram. Basically, we are talking about your data model, right? Having a data model, then, okay, look at all this. You have the data model, then you very quickly, you can tell, okay, this would require what sort of data, right? How this data will work in the sequence diagram, right? Where it falls, which module would use which tables, right? Everything becomes complete. Right? So usually that's the sequence that I will look at if I'm clueless about what I do. I think first thing, do the wireframe, then the system diagram, and so on and so forth, right? In that order. Any questions? Okay. All right. Next, let's look at documentation. I know it's tedious, it's a chore, but it's very, very helpful to yourself in 6 months' time. Right? Trust me, after 6 months, you forget every single thing you did 6 months ago. Right? It's for yourself and it's also for everybody else in your team. Because as I said, nobody is a mind reader. Your teammate do not know what you did if you don't document what you did. Same thing, documentation also means updating your design. Because trust me, whatever you come out in your design, once you did the implementation, something has changed. Usually you don't follow 100% to the dot what you designed, right? Something has changed. That's fine to change. Update your design, right? Because it's part of your documentation. It's part of you telling, oh, I've made some changes. I've decided, creating these couple other functions is better than creating these functions that I designed for. Tell people you have done that change, right? And basically, it creates a single source of truth for the entire team because your entire team is working on that product, not just you, right? So everybody would have a place to refer to. It creates common understanding across the team. Okay, so yeah, this is a very, very typical example I always pick up. Why is Python so popular nowadays? It has very good documentation, right? Among a very good community who updates the documentation, keeps it updated religiously, right? Success, this is what success looks like to me. Okay, All right, that's it. There's probably a lot more. Feel free to ask any questions.